Next, let's take a look at so-called insider crime, which is another major risk for companies across the end-to-end supply chain and is one of the topics about to be considered by our next speaker, Peter Stenlund, CEO of Altida. In our final presentation, he'll be discussing what motivates employees to commit cargo crime in a presentation that also looks at the manipulation of systems, thefts, fraud, and forgery of documents, giving examples at both ends of the financial impact scale. Peter will also look at attacks on first and last mile deliveries as well as destination facilities. It all sounds really interesting, so I'm very excited to welcome Peter to the studio. Peter, thank you so much. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Sam, and thank you for taking your time and watching this session. I will walk you through. My background is I'm working with helping companies securing the transportation fleets of different kind of parts. So please buckle up and get ready to share and listen to the information. I will tell you about some true stories. Criminals on the inside, we are used to think that they're coming from the outside with the locks and access control, but they are already on the inside. So how we protect ourselves and our businesses and colleagues and shareholder values with this fact. Multi-channel attacks, manipulation of the systems and fraud. We will have a look on this. So the insiders are weak spots. Make any organization vulnerable. Sorry about that. The consequences, threats and potential targets. That means if you have an insider, one or more persons who are already inside the company, they will become a weak spot since they are the easy way to get into an organization to commit cargo crimes or fraud in the organization. And that makes the system very, very hard to detect or to find out who is the way in. And especially if it's a group and you don't know if they have connection to each other or if they are independent operating. And blackmail and other kind of violent threats, financial threats, are really common challenges to deal with, which are not so easy. So, multi-channel attacks, manipulation of the security systems. When the target is selected, it's automatic shifting here. When the target is selected by the perpetrator, the bad guy, bad organization, the local, regional and global effects can be very obvious when they are using the alarm system, access control, locks and access to control to restricted areas, warehouse and social media. They don't need to manipulate those systems as traditionally because they are already inside if they get help from one or multiple persons. They are authorized, and that's the scary thing here. If they are authorized, you cannot detect, you don't get any alarm system operating that can produce any alerts, and the access control will be flawless open, and the locks are open, and the restricted areas become open, and warehouse become open, social media becomes open. That means the messaging interactions on social media can make a very, very powerful damage because if they are on the inside, you can't protect it that easy. And if we go further down to attacks, there can be fast attacks, direct attacks, and they will all affect globally. Cyber attacks definitely. Then we have hacker tools available at service as software as a service. We have attacks to routers and installations in offices, network and cloud are available. And database info, customer suppliers, IP, etc. Everything is wide open if the guys are on the inside already. And they have access and they are authorized. So it's the easiest way in for the intruders. And the global attacks is very, very hard to prevent and even harder to fix if they are already there. So for instance, if somebody attack your organization that way using the inside people, it's very, very challenging to prevent. Then we have on the first and last mile, we have at the supply chain side, we have the drivers. They are a very obvious risk. They can do damage in many ways. One thing is very common challenge. They can do the mapping, they can do an inventory listing, and they can commit thefts by themselves. But many times they're just doing the part of the crime process. They're doing the mapping and inventory listing, and then they come with a separate team, and mostly a team of people. They do the theft and commit the crime, and then they can also manipulate the alarms and the locks and access control in advance by doing different things towards the hardware and also the software. And that includes cameras. They can make cameras and all hardware, software installations useless, completely useless. So when it's time for an attack, they are confident that nothing will happen, nobody will get alerted, and they have a free ride to commit the crime. And the small thefts with just one driver grabbing a thing or two, that's not the big deal. The big deal is the inventory listing of the system and the process here. And if they have last mile and first mile route, they can be in multiple places and do the crime. On the receiver side, we see here on the image we have tomatoes, and there was a claim on one pallet load full of pallets, one truck load with pallets of tomatoes, and they claimed them to be rotten and bad and damaged. But in real life, it was not. It was only a few tomatoes in one single pallet. And at the call, they claimed and said, okay, now we have this claim, so we need to get assistance with solving this issue. Okay, when can we come and make the inspection? So in this case, nothing happened, but they had to go to court because they were trying to fulfill the fraud. It was a fraud committed by the receiver of cargo. So the threat is on the inside and authorized. You see the green light on where the on the lock and access control. How can we reduce the risk and damages? Is it possible to prevent the losses? Can we protect the assets and reduce the damages? It's the answers are not easy. We will look into that. Yes, it is possible, but it's hard, it's challenging, and we can't do it really with small effort. Who is on the inside? How did they get there? Why and when? And we have the drivers, we have the route planner, sales manager, CFO, and some extra. And this is the most challenging thing, that we can have people in different people and stakeholders in different positions doing the job on the inside. And here we have a true story based on the sales manager first. It was thefts, forgery, and fraud. Why? You can ask yourself about that. Well, the thefts was, for instance, one thing was discovered by the accounting. The bookkeeping, since the bookkeeper was notifying that on the travel expenses bill, they notified that they were filling up diesel for 100 liter almost, but the tank volume was only 78 liter. So it was very obvious a problem. But bookkeeping was asking, I don't understand this. How is it possible? Then the next time with the same person, it started with a small theft. The next time it was a trip from south of Sweden to Norway via Stockholm and Örebro. And they were in the morning. They started with full tank, and then after 3 hours driving, the tank was filled up again, and then ended up in Oslo, fill up the tank again. But just 2 hours before reaching Oslo, there was also a receipt in the bill, in the accounting, and so it was 2 hours after in the south of Sweden at the same time, almost only 2 hours difference. So then we discovered that it was the wife of the sales manager who was filling up the private car, and then it was the tip on the iceberg. And then we also found out they were buying telephones, cell phones, and on the company bill, and it was a forgery of contracts, documents, and also receiving bathrooms and building construction material for the summer house. And it was probably not meant to be from the first place, but it turned out to be so. They wanted to have more effort than it was offered through the salary. Now we get to the sales manager was kicked out of the company, of course, and police came in. But that was nothing bigger. This one is really a big one. It was 150 million euro turnover company with 300 trucks. The CEO and CFO in that company committed fraud big time, and they served time in jail, 3 years and 9 months, and the penalty was in court raised to 13.5 million euro. And it was not meant to be at the first time. It was a fast-growing company. They were lacking money, and they borrowed products from the customers. They were transporting different kind of valuables and assets, and they were borrowing from the customers' assets, and those assets were used in this case. The problem was not when they were growing. The problem was to discover this when during that period when they were growing. When they stopped growing, the real problem occurred because they couldn't take anything without getting caught. So they got caught and with the fingers in a jelly box, jelly can, and this was really a sad story because they have really done a good job from the first time. But the growth, fast growth, and the possibility to help the company, they took the chance. But the problem, the reality came across, and they have to pay back this. How can we protect the shareholders and stakeholders? Well, we need to do the business risk analysis very carefully. And if the CEO and CFO is there as stakeholders making all the decisions, we need to create a process and focus on uptime for the business. If that's the driving force, and financial department must always be a part of this action. And because it's normal that they have control points, and internal and external personnel, not the accountant. That's not what I'm talking about. We need to have an external person assisting the team doing this control and setting up the process. And it has to be a secure process, and a lot of practice and training by different people, and not the two same people, CEO and CFO. That's not working. We know that now. The problem is also this kind of a disaster. We don't really have so easy to follow this before it's too late. So, and all the access control and all that, it doesn't work. It's useless when this is not in place. So this has to be in place. Then it's easy to discover much earlier, so the damages can be reduced. And here is an example. It's a risk to be first to stand out and protect the asset. Why is that? Well, if you see this one, it's like a shining light. One guy is totally different than all the others. Why is that? So if the bad guys see one standing out, it's more interesting to interact with that one, and it's a sitting duck actually. So if you have a lock installation on your truck or trailer, it's easier to pick that one if you are the first one. But if it's like this, it's the last one. It's also a risk. But so it's good to play in the middle. And if you are go with the flow, sort of. So if you're alone from beginning or at the end, it's not very good. So balance of risk and reward. It's a balance between pain, cost, risk and reward. Thefts of diesel is not a problem. If so, how to prevent? Well, to be very honest and true, it's not the problem with diesel theft. It's not anything you can help with locks or security devices. It's a question of routine. Because the experience says so. We know that now since about more than 20 years. Don't put any locks or devices on the tank if you're afraid of getting damages, because the damages can increase and be much higher than the damage of by stealing diesel, 450 liter diesel. So keep the less possible diesel in the tank and change the routines. Never leave the trucks or park the trucks with full tank. That's the solution of that. Then you will have easiest possible way. So avoid the worst issues, prepare, practice and repeat. And thank you for attention. And that's my speech.
Peter, thank you so much for joining us today
Thank
and
you.
coming into the studio.
Thank you.
We have a couple of questions that I could ask you very quickly before you leave us.
Yes.
What are the best ways to prevent multi-channel attacks and manipulation and the challenges that need to be overcome?
Yes, it's not very easy answer, but one thing which is very crucial, you need to have a controlled process, and you need to involve finance department always, because they have it as a job to do the accounting, and that's the way it starts, always with a small ticket like 10 euro or something. And if you train them and practice a lot, they will be even more skilled and better to discover. And then you make systems that not one person have all the power. You need to disarm the power from one person and divide it to many people. And also external, which have no dependencies to the company.
And how difficult is it for organizations to protect themselves from the threat of insider crime?
Oh, that's really, really tricky, because normally you can't do that without training. You need to have education, training and practice. And practice is the training where you do this and simulate the different scenarios. That's the only way to protect yourselves. And it doesn't mean you can protect 100%, but you can reduce the risk. And by doing this, you send a message to the outside that we are working with this and we have a high alert. So probably you're not going to be the black sheep there. You're going to be among them, the other ones. So they will select another one. You can hope for that.
And just finally, how would you explain the balance between the different levels of pain, cost, risk and reward in the supply chain security process?
Yeah, it's the question you always have to ask yourself. Is it better to have this, put this on at risk, or should we invest in protection systems? But don't invest in protection systems without educating, training and practice the software. That means the people. So that's the way. And the diesel thefts, it's a very good example. Not too much protection. That's not good, because it will cost many times more. And too low cost, it will also be bad, because you lose a lot of diesel, and that uptime will go down on that kind of vehicles. And the fleet in a big fleet, it will be a bigger cost. So the balance there, sleep with the parking, empty tanks, that's the cheapest, best way, as most secure way to keep the balance.
Well, Peter, thank you so much again for your interesting presentation and for coming into the studio and answering those questions as well.
Thank you very much, Sam, and thank you for the time.
Thank you. See you again soon.
See you.